Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for my regular Monday this and that video, which is a weekly vlog that I do to answer questions that have come in, give you updates on some recent experiments, let you know of videos yet to come or videos I already have out. And if I do that, I link to them in the description box down below, and whatever I feel like talking about. So I have a lot of topics today, so let's get to them. The first thing is dehydrating pinto beans, or any dry bean that you would normally cook up. So I'm planning on doing this very same thing with kidney beans next, because I prefer red kidney beans when I'm making chili. So right here are my dehydrated pinto beans. Now, I wanted to try this because my father-in-law was here this past weekend. I was making some beans and cornbread because he's the one from North Carolina. So I wanted to make sure I made one of his very favorite classic dishes from where he was born and raised. So anyway, I made a huge pot of the beans, and normally what I would do is can the excess so I can just open a jar and heat it up the next time I want to have beans and cornbread. But this time I decided to keep the spices simple in the large pan that I made up, just onion, garlic, and a little salt, so that I could take some out once the beans were done, then add in the spices I like to use for beans and cornbread, and then dehydrate these up, and then be able to powder them and use them for making refried beans, or even cook them up as is so that I can use these for beans and cornbread. So you can see what they look like. And in this picture here, you'll see the difference in what they look like before they're cooked and then after they're cooked, but then dehydrated. And a lot of you I know are going to ask, well, what would be the purpose of dehydrating a bean that was already dried in the first place? Well, that is because not only is it going to reduce the size of it in storage, the main purpose is that it's going to make it much faster to cook it up. Because you know, when you got a dry bean, you have to soak them overnight, then you got to cook them for at least a day. Sometimes it can take a couple of days to cook your dry beans so that they're nice and soft. And the older the beans are, the harder they get. And sometimes no amount of cooking, you can cook them for days if they're really old, and they will always stay somewhat hard. So this would be one way that you could take the beans that you have and get them in a form where they're not going to get to that point where they're too hard to cook, because they've already been cooked, and they'll cook up within a few minutes because they've already been cooked. So I've got another whole dehydrator full because I'm so happy with how this turned out. I did try powdering some, and I found out, just like with the mashed potatoes that I dehydrated up and then tried to prepare, you can't simply just add water or it will be gritty. You actually have to cook them a little bit to get that proper refried beans or mashed potato consistency. But still, it reduces the time you need to get that done. And then I also last night took, and I always do this, and I have this little 1 cup pot. It just looks like a regular cooking pot, but it's only 1 cup. So I use that when I want to try out just small amounts of something at a time. So I took some of the dried beans, threw them in the pot, added a little water, which I never measure out, I always just guess, and then cooked them for a few minutes. It's great for using for beans and cornbread. And as I said, I plan on doing this with kidney beans as well. It's going to be my next thing. So that way I can quickly make up some chili. I do keep a lot of chili canned up that I make myself. But with me on a quest to really reduce the size of things in my pantry, dehydrating is the best way to go. It takes up even less room than freeze-dried foods. And so I'm trying more and more things so that I can have things ready to go for the most part, but take up a lot less room. I mean, canned goods, all you have to do is heat them through, where dehydrated goods are going to take a little bit longer than that, but usually not much. So I might even make up a pot of chili and then just dehydrate everything. So then all I have to do is add water and then cook it for a few minutes and it's ready to go. So I think I'm going to try that actually. But I also do want to have some just plain kidney beans for when I make tamale pie. I don't think I have a recipe out on my chili yet. It's really kind of crazy because I never do it the same all the time. I don't measure anything. I throw everything in a pot and it always turns out good. It might turn out a little bit different each time, but it's always good. But I do have one on the tamale pie. So let's talk a little bit about my apple harvest. So look at the size of this apple. Why this is so impressive is these apples right here, and it's shown in this picture right here. This is my first basket I picked off of that tree. That is my youngest apple tree. And we had bought it, kept it in a pot on the deck for a couple years, and then a few years back moved it into the front yard. Now, it might have done this last year, but nobody in our area got apples on their trees last year because of a late freeze that we had. But this year, it just exploded with apples, and they're beautiful apples. The biggest apples I've ever seen this little tree get. In fact, they're bigger than most of the apples we ever get on our older tree that's much bigger. That one's always been far more temperamental than this one. They're similar apples, but I think they are a little bit different variety. I don't know what the older one is because it was here when we bought the house over 30 years ago. But this one for certain is a Gravenstein, and they are a great apple, and they love our cold, wet climate. So much so that when we had that heat wave this August where the temperatures got up over 100 degrees, I don't know how high they really got. I just know they got over 100 degrees, which for our cold, wet climate is very hot. What happened was quite a few of the apples actually got cooked on the side that faced the sun. So not all of them, but quite a few of them did. I mean, these ones here are all great, but what I'm doing is as I'm working through them, I'm starting with the apples that have the cooked side because that's the part that's going to spoil first, and I'm just cutting that off and then starting to process them. Now, I still have a lot of apple butter and a lot of applesauce from 2 years ago and years before that. So it was fine last year. We didn't get any apples because I still have a lot put up in various ways. So this year I'm probably going to dehydrate most everything, whatever we're not going to eat fresh or use fresh, because I am going to be making a gluten-free apple pie for some friends I have coming over. I'm going to teach them how to make soap, and we're going to have a ladies' lunch. I did make some applesauce yesterday just to try dehydrating it to see if cooking the applesauce, what the difference would be. And just as I figured, it turned out more like a fruit leather, which is good. It's a great snack for me, for the grandbabies. But I do like to dehydrate up apple slices raw because those you can actually powder up and then turn that into an applesauce, or use it as flavoring to add to pancakes, muffins, breads, whatever you want to use it in. And then I like to have the slices for making apple pie. I use that now more for making apple pie than I do fresh apples because it makes a great apple pie. In fact, I have an old video I did on making apple pie from Dehydrated Apples that I'll link to down below. And then I also have a video where I made a dried apple crisp using cherry juice to rehydrate the apples in, and that turned out really good. So the nice thing about dehydrated apples is you can rehydrate them in either apple juice to really intensify the apple flavor, or use any other kind of flavored juice to add a different flavor. And so cherry is a great one. So you have an apple cherry pie or an apple cherry crisp like I did in that video, which was from over a year ago now. So yeah, that's my plan. I've got my apple slicer here. I don't use this for peeling because a lot of times you get apples that aren't in perfect shape and it never peels it right. So I just peel by hand and then use this to slice it up because it still does speed up the process. And if I can find a link to this, I'll go ahead and give you the link. But I know that we can also find this in our local store. And then right here is just one of my batches so far of vinegar that I'm starting. So whenever I peel and core apples for making the apple slices, I just take the peels and cores, throw them in a jar, add some sugar, put a cover over it, and then start some vinegar. I have a video on this that I'll also link to down below. In that particular video, I was actually using whole apple chunks. And then right here is the vinegar I just strained off. This is one of my floral vinegars from this year. This is, let's see, rose petal, nasturtium, and pansy. These are the ones I use for my hair. A lot of times I use it alone for washing my hair, and sometimes I use a follow-up. I just use my homemade soap. Now, I don't even make a shampoo out of it. I just use my own homemade bar soap, wash my hair with it, and then rinse it with the vinegar. I do that once a week, and then the rest of the time I just wash with the vinegar itself. And then there's another one back there that's a similar, but it has fresh rosemary added to it. but I'm going to be making a lot of apple vinegar because I'm going to have a lot of apple scraps. So that basket, this picture I will show you again, that's just the first basket off of this little tree. I'm thinking there's at least a couple more baskets like that I can get off of there. And that doesn't even count the apples on my old tree. So I'm going to have apples coming out my ears. I think I'm going to be giving a bunch away because I only have so much room for all these apples. And then back here, what I've got going on is I did get a batch. They look the same. And by the way, I use coconut sugar in this, like part coconut sugar. So it's going to add that brown color. And I don't bother to peel my zucchini. So you'll see just a little bit of green in there. And I leave the seeds. I don't care. What this is pineapple zucchini and passion fruit zucchini. I have a video out on how to make these. I did a couple years ago. In that video, I made a black cherry zucchini. And a lot of people, when they make a pineapple zucchini, they'll use it in place of real pineapple in whatever it is that they're making. And you can shred the pineapple to use it as it'd be more like a crushed pineapple replacement. You may, if looks really matter to you, you may want to peel that and not use the coconut sugar so you'll get a more yellow color. I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and make one more batch, and for that one, I'm going to use the fruit punch, the Simple Truth Organic Fruit Punch. It's all cherry, apple, and grape, but it's got a really nice flavor. I'm usually not a fruit punch fan, but I decided to give this a try, at least if nothing else, for the grandkids. I love this stuff. So I'm thinking about making a batch of the zucchini with this juice. And then here is the same brand of the tropical passion fruit. It is actually a blend, but it's mostly passion fruit. And I love this juice as well. And I get those from Vitacost. I don't have a referral link or anything like that, but just go to Vitacost.com. They are way better than Thrive Market when it comes to prices. You don't have to pay for a membership just to be able to even see what they have in their store. And I get a lot of things like that through Vitacost because they carry a lot of organic items, essential oils, and so much more. And they tend to have a better price. And they always have sales and coupon codes that you can use to save a minimum of 10% on your order. And 15 is pretty common as well. So I really like Vitacost. They're one of my very favorite places to shop. So since I'm talking about the vinegar, let me answer a question about ferments that I get quite a bit. I want to remind everyone that whenever you're doing any kind of ferment, you're working with a living thing. So that's the whole idea of a ferment. You got these live active cultures in your vinegars, in your natural sodas, in your kimchi, in your sauerkraut, whatever it is. So when you're working with these things, you have to understand, though there is a basic timeline that things will fall into place. So for example, for vinegar, the first 2 weeks when you're making vinegar, bacteria and yeast is going to work through the sugar. And during that time, it's going to bubble like crazy. Then it's going to stop bubbling somewhere around the 2-week mark. And then at that point, it still needs roughly another 2 weeks for it to then take the alcohol that was made from the sugars and then convert that to acetic acid. So just because your vinegar stops bubbling doesn't mean it's done. It means it still needs a couple more weeks. But because it is a living thing, it could be done sooner than that. It might only need another week. Maybe it's done in 3 weeks. Maybe it takes 5 or 6. There are certain factors that can affect the ferment and how quickly it goes, like the temperature of the air or the room that you're keeping it in, the type of water or sugar that you're using, how much sugar you added. These all can be factors. But even if you did every single batch exactly the same every time, there's still going to be variances because it's a living thing. So just think, whenever someone is with child, 9 months is just an average time frame. It might be 9.5 months. It might be 8.5 months. So every child's going to be different. Every ferment's going to be different. So just keep that in mind. Don't freak out if things don't fall into an exact time frame. So if something's taken a while to get going, to get bubbling, Some of these other factors, like the amount of sugar, if it's something that you would add sugar to, like vinegar, wine, and so on, too much at the beginning can kind of slow it down, but it doesn't mean it won't get active. Just give it more time. And the temperature of the room can cause it to take longer to really take off. So don't worry about it. Just watch it for a while. And certainly don't go add more sugar after 3 or 4 days if it's not bubbly yet, because all you're going to do is slow it down even further or even prevent it from getting going at all. So moving on from there, I want to remind everybody about the collaborations coming up. I'll link to the video where I talk about specifics on the collaboration, but I want to ask you, please, again, do not send your pictures to me in separate emails. That is so much harder for me to keep track of. When you send your photos to submit into the photo collaborations, wait until you have all the photos you want and send them in only one email. Specify what name you want added. The collaboration we're trying to put together right now is the canning collaboration. I was going to close it out last week. I'm going to go ahead and allow for one more week to the end of this week to get the last of those submissions in. So please go watch the video where I go into all the details and where I also cover the other collaborations that are yet to come. I have 2 more coming very closely after the canning collaboration. But the best way to always stay abreast of what's going on with the collaborations is watch my Monday this and that videos, because that's where I'm always going to give the updates. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the banned topics. Obviously, I can't really mention them, but you might have seen my video that came out over a week ago, I think it is now, where I had to put that up in replacement. And what some people don't understand, they think that YouTube banned my videos. That's not what happened. I learned about new topics that are now banned. And so what I did is I made a preemptive strike to remove those videos and make sure that they're over on Rumble. Any new video I've had come out, or most new videos that have come out here on YouTube within the past couple of years, are already at Rumble, but not all of my videos that are older than that, because it's just very time consuming to get all those up there. And when I realize I have some other important ones that I think are good topics that are not over there, then I will go put them up there. And such as this particular precious metal infused in a liquid that we are now no longer to talk about as a remedy for anything, even though this substance is still used in hospitals even today. I found this out for certain by several nurses that commented under that video and said, yes, we still use it today, yet you're not allowed to talk about it on YouTube. So what happens if, it doesn't matter if you're monetized or not, you're still not allowed to talk about it. So it's not about the demonetization of the videos. It's about preventing my whole channel from being taken down. And I want it to stay here for as long as possible because there's a lot of great information. Not everybody has access to Rumble or some of these other sites. And so I'm trying to keep as much here as I can, but I'm glad that I have other options, Rumble being one of them. BitChute is another. I've had that account for actually far longer than I've had Rumble. But it wasn't until the other day that I decided to go ahead and try uploading one video there just to see how it goes. I'll go ahead and put my BitChute account down below. I do have 2 other backup video accounts, and I'm not sure that I'll ever use those. I may, as time allows, look into some other sites, but I can only handle so much at a time. So please understand, I'm incredibly busy. I just don't have time to be putting myself on every single social media and video platform out there. So just please respect that. Rumble was what I went with, but do I think it's perfect? No. Do I think it's always going to stay the way it is? No. Because when the powers that be have their way, all alternative sites will either be shut down or they'll be just as controlled as YouTube has been becoming over the past several years. Yes, I understand that YouTube is quote unquote privately owned, but not really. Not really. If you know the truth, it's not privately owned, but let's just say it still is, and they have a right to make their own rules. Fine. But the main issue is once they set a new rule, which they keep changing and keep adding to and don't even warn you, that means any video that you've had out for the past, whenever you started your channel, which mine started in 2016, Any of those videos can get removed, strikes, which can cause a strike on your channel, which can get your whole channel removed. This is how it works. And I know a lot of people don't fully understand that. Even people with small channels that are just getting started don't understand that. So anyway, I'm just letting you know, one of the drawbacks to Rumble is that they don't have playlists, but I'm going to be shooting a video here shortly of how you can create your own playlist from any video platform, one that you have yourself. It's easy to do. It's something I've done for years and years. It's really just a matter of bookmarking and putting those bookmarks into categorized folders. It's super easy. And then as far as my Rumble account, yes, you will see what looks like two different accounts. They are both mine. What it is the one that you see with my face. That is the main controlling account, but that's not the actual channel. This channel is the one that shows the picture with the wooden background. It says Rain Country. That's where all the videos go. But everything gets controlled by the main account page. I also have a list. People are telling me to do a video on all the videos that are no longer on YouTube. Well, obviously I can't really do that because then I actually have to mention the topics. And yes, I understand about tiptoeing around and using code words, but not everyone's going to get that. So, and I've been doing that for years too, but not everyone's going to understand that. So what I've done, and I always am adding to it as time goes along, and I have to remove yet more videos off of YouTube or shoot new videos only for Rumble or BitChute or wherever. I have a written list of videos, that links you can go directly to. I will link to that whole list in the description box down below, so you can find them all, and you can always check back in that list and see if I've added anything new, because you're probably going to see more and more links going into that list. Anyway, I think that's it for my this and that for the week. Any thoughts, ideas, questions you have, please put them in comments down below, and I'll either try to answer them right away or I will do a video on that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.